you can get infections easily, and inflammations eventually get out of control. And if you are predisposed to some kind of autoimmune disorder or disease, that can get activated big time. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Strange. I am a psychologist and creator of online courses on psychology, spirituality, and so on for the last 10 years. And before that, I used to work at university, also lecturing on psychology and doing research. Mainly, I was a researcher in psychology. However, saying that, parallel to that, I was always interested in spirituality, finding truth, finding the path that resonates with me. So most of my life, I was in New Age spirituality. That was my central focus of my life, I can say. Anyway, in this video, I want to talk to you about something that is really important to all of us. It's how we manage stress day to day. And the thing is, it's more important than you think. Because let me tell you a short story about myself. That was a year, 2012, and a significant year in spirituality, as I thought. But really, it changed into something really horrible. If you watch one of my videos on near-death experience, this is when it happened. Basically, I developed ulcerative colitis, and that was hurting me and eventually killing me for a few years. At that time, I was writing my PhD. I was at university for 7 years, and that was something that was just making me stressed. I needed that break, but I didn't read the signs and the symptoms that were worsening pretty much every day. I got to the point where the pain in my stomach was horrendous. I started missing those days when I was going to university. I mean, I was staying at home because of that pain. But every time I would go to see a doctor, they would just give me more painkillers, stronger painkillers, promising that somebody will see me at some point. Well, let me tell you that the things got so bad and so out of control that at some point I just remember myself laying in bed, unable to get up, unable to eat, and unable to drink even water. Without going into a graphic detail about seeing blood from the places where you shouldn't be seen and having pains that were so sharp that can send you to an agonizing state of mind where you don't know what to do with yourself. This all was just terrible and a horrible, traumatic experience of my life. What helped me and who rescued me, that was my friend at the time, a girl from Ukraine who came to UK to work as a nurse. And she called me that day and she asked me how I'm feeling. And I say to her that I am not able to eat or drink even water for the last 3 days. And that was bad. And I didn't recognize that. And she said to me, right, now call to a hospital and ask them to see you in out of hours practice, because it was weekend and it was evening. And she said, you have to go as an urgent patient and ask them to see you ASAP. Just tell them this and this and this. So she told me what I should tell them in order to make them convinced to see me. And this is what I did. So to cut story short, I was in a hospital. And the hospital, when they checked me out, they say to me, it's clearly that you have anemia already, and it's clearly that you are very weak and you are not going home. You are staying here. The tears of relief just were pouring from me that eventually somebody might fix me. Somebody might stop this agonizing pain that I was suffering for so long, and nobody seemed were interested enough to help. And I'm talking about just practicing doctors, GP, which we call in UK. That didn't really shift that quick. I guess they didn't recognize that I was falling apart. I was literally not very far from my last day on earth. Just imagine that. How many days can you go without food and water? Not many, I can tell you. So the stress at university, combined with that autoimmune condition that I had, was literally killing me. I spent months in and out of hospitals. I spent months recovering. The curious thing when I'm thinking back to that experience that I had in 2012 is that when I was going to university every day to do my research, to do my studies and work, as I said, I was doing PhD and I was a researcher. So it was a lot of work. Every time I would go back there, I remember thinking to myself, I really don't want to go to work. I hate that place. Because I was tired. It's not like I hated it really, but I hated the state I was in. I was so tired. I needed a break and I didn't recognize it. And eventually I ended up in hospital on a surgery table twice. This is my call to you. Please recognize the symptoms when the stress is killing you or anyone you know. You don't want to end up in a hospital like many people do every day. Someone with stroke or heart attack ends up because of stress. And the stress in our life, it starts with small things. Small things that make you frustrated, angry, then you're unable to rest, then your sleep gets disrupted. Then you feel like you don't know who to talk to anymore about this because you feel like you're complaining a lot and you're complaining too much and nobody is really interested in your complaints. But really, you're getting more and more drained. And then you are getting more and more ill. Even if you were a healthy individual, your immune system gets compromised. What happens when we are stressed out? Your adrenaline goes higher. Your cortisol levels go higher. Even when you sleep, even when you don't really do anything, it's constantly at elevated level. So all your weak points in your immune system, in all your organs, they get more and more inflamed. You can get infections easily and inflammations eventually get out of control. And if you are predisposed to some kind of autoimmune disorder or disease, that can get activated big time. So this is my call to you. Please recognize when you're unable to sleep, when you're chronically fatigued, when you're constantly feeling angry or frustrated or drained. You might feel just empty. You start feeling more depressed rather than anxious, because anxiety, you have some kind of energy. With depression, you don't, because you get depleted. And if you start having some kind of infections, inflammations, and so on, that's your body is telling you that it's under some kind of stress or even attack. Recognize also that you are using certain defense mechanisms that I talk about in different videos. Something like repression, suppression, denial, projection. So when we project our unwanted feelings on somebody else, when we blame others just because we are having a bad mood, when we deny the reality, it's completely different. You know the person, for example, who is clearly there is something wrong with them or they might be sick. And everybody can see that. But they say, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm fine. Yeah, they're fine until something really drastic happens. And you can see that. So they're in denial. We all know what is denial. Denial is a defense mechanism. Another defense mechanism we use is sarcasm and jokes and sarcastic humor. Especially we love that in UK. And that's something else that we use to minimize that stress, the stress that might be hurting you. And another defense mechanism we use is intellectualization. I know this is quite a word, but this is where we use logic and facts instead of emotions. Emotions, we need to process them. And many of us think, if only I could stop emotions and not feel them, my life, my work would be so much more simple and straightforward. From one side, yes, that's true, but from another side, they serve as a function. And again, I talk about emotions separately because I do think it's very important to understand and work with our emotions rather than suppressing, repressing them, or even denying that they exist. So to wrap up this video, I just want to let you know that first of all, it is important to recognize signs and symptoms in yourself before it's too late. And take breaks and take day off and take weekend away if you can. It's more important than you think. Because if something happens, then you'll be forced to do it. And you don't want to be in that state where you're not even enjoying it. And finally, I can say that true healing happens when we acknowledge our feelings, when we pay attention to our emotions, when we take time to recharge, meditate, pray, and so on. Find the things that you're connected to. Find your interest or hobbies that can make you a bit more interested in life, where you feel better and where you feel that your life becomes a little bit more meaningful. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video.